Okay, so welcome everybody to today's learning objectives. And today's program was popular topically, and that's because we're going to talk about AI notebooks. And I think that everybody has lots of questions about artificial intelligence and how we can use it in practice. What are the strengths, the weaknesses, the trepidations, the opportunities, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I kept seeing over and over again was this concept of an AI notebook. And so I started exploring and playing around with the products that are on the market that are AI notebooks. So that's what we're going to explore today is basically what is an AI notebook. And it's one of the things that when Gen AI came onto the market and a bunch of products started coming out, as a former law librarian, one of the things that I thought that AI could be really useful for is the concept of knowledge management. And so what these AI notebooks do is basically allow you to have kind of a AI pointed at your sources and whether that's actual documents that you've uploaded or websites that you've put together when you're doing research or whatever. You basically put all of the sources in one place and then point the AI at them to answer questions, generate summaries, generate new documents, outlines, things like that from the sources that you are selecting. So it's not looking at your entire hard drive. It's not looking at your entire cloud storage. It's not looking at the entire web. It's specific things that you've looked at. And we used to have the ability to, and I think you can still in Google actually create these little Google repositories of websites and then have Google just search those. And it's a little bit like that, but of course it's Gen AI, so you can do a good bit more than just search it. You can actually generate information, new content, things like that. So that is what we're going to explore today. So where are they? They're products. They're actually specific products. Some are within other products, but they're kind of standalone pieces. So Google Notebook LLM is the probably the one that came out the first that everybody was talking about, got really excited about. It is by far the most feature rich of the tools that I've played around with. Um, and it's really interesting. And then fairly recently, if you're a Copilot subscriber, which Copilot is an add-on for Microsoft 360. Okay, I should back up. Copilot is Microsoft's AI tool, and it's available in free products. It's available in paid products. It's available through the browser. They now have an agentic model for Edge, the browser. uh, It gets a little get confusing, quite frankly, all the places that it might turn up. But in the context of what we're going to be talking about today, we're talking about Copilot as an add-on for your Microsoft 365 subscription. And it is an add-on that will cost you an additional $30 per user per month. What you get for that $30 per user per month, we actually did a webinar last week through NCBA, and I did one a little bit earlier in April of this year. Of course, things change quickly and dramatically, and they've added notebooks to the Copilot suite that you get as an add-on to 365. We'll talk a little bit more about it and then demonstrate it. One that I wanted to show y'all, but I was not willing to pay for it is Perplexity Spaces. And that does seem like a good contender, but it is, I believe, it's at the $20 per user per month model. And at a certain point, you can't pay for everything. So I had to leave that one in the dust. Then there's Zoho Notebook, and Zoho is a productivity suite that is comparable to Google Workspaces or Microsoft 365. They actually have a whole lot of really good tools. It's open source. I'm not going to demonstrate that today. There's a Screen Out Notebook AI, there's Open Notebook, which is all open source. Kindle Scribe, if you use and love your Kindle, there's now a whole new Kindle that has AI notebooks built in, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of products, not just the Google and Microsoft ones. Those are probably the most well known, and thus why we're going to look at those. So we're going to start with looking at Google Notebook LM. This is a product that Google puts out. Google has a whole lot of products, as you're aware. They have free products, paid products. They have Google One, which is a subscription model. They have Google Workspace, which is a subscription model. It gets a little bit confusing. But what Google Notebook LM is, there is a free version, and that's the one we're going to look at today. But as I pointed out before, if you don't pay for something, you are the product. So there's going to be a give and take in terms of the terms of use, privacy, and security. The free version of Google Notebook, it has some, I mean, they're not sharing your documents up with their model. That said, and in any of these, free or paid, if you submit feedback and share your prompt, share what you're doing, it shares it with human reviewers because they're getting feedback. So that's something to be aware of. As much as you might be tempted to click that little like button or the dislike button, and then it'll ask you for your feedback, that does actually start triggering in their terms of service that they're sharing it with human beings. So for that reason, you probably don't want to use that. Um, for the free notebook, you can get 100 notebooks with 50 sources each, 500,000 words per source, 50 chat queries, and 3 audio generations daily. So that's pretty good. Um, when you get the Google One AI Premium, it's $20 a month. You get 500 notebooks, 300 sources, obviously a lot more. Analytics, the output quality is the same. You just get, you have lower limits with the free version and slightly different terms of service. Again, I tend to always want you to, if you're going to use this for work product, pay for it. You can get it through Google One AI Premium, or it's available in the Google Workspace. So if you're already using Google Workspace, which is about $14 per month, you get the Notebook LM Pro. So either way, don't don't put confidential information in the free version, trade secrets, IP. I'm going to send y'all some resources after the program today, and there's an IP lawyer who explains the difference between privacy and confidentiality and what that means in terms of the terms of service in Google Notebooks. So if you want someone to explain all that to you, um, there's a video, of course. And then the collaboration piece with Google Notebook LM, it's designed to be collaborative. You can share output, you can share notebooks, you can do all sorts of things with it. Unlike the Microsoft Notebook, which thus far I can't tell that has any collaborative opportunities. So I'm just going to walk you through this interface and kind of show you how to get started and all of that. So we're going to switch over to my browser. So this is Google Notebook LM. And you'll see that you just go to notebooklm.google.com. You do have to have a Google account. Again, it can be a free account or through Google One or through your Google Workspace. Again, I'm using the free one. You'll see on the home screen, you're defaulting to see all. Then you can see my notebooks, the notebooks that I've created. They have now added this thing called featured notebooks, which is people who are sharing their notebooks with others. And then you see shared with me, and that is the collaborative aspect of it, that you can have people share notebooks with you and you can share notebooks with others. So far, no one has shared a notebook with me, so I can't show you that. So these are the featured notebooks that people have created for public consumption. And then down here are your notebooks. So you can see the option, you create a new notebook, or I have some existing notebooks. They also stuff this introduction to Notebook LM from December 5th, 2023. So this is already seriously out of date. And I guess these are just samples to get you a sense of how they work. Um, so we're going to look at creating a new notebook first. So you just click the button, and the first thing it says to do is upload sources. And you've got a source limit of 50 sources that you can put into a single notebook. So because it's a Google product, you can upload documents from Google Docs or Google Slides. You can add websites, links to websites, and these have to be public websites. So if there is a login that you need to go through to get access to the website, Google Notebook won't be able to see into that. And then YouTube videos. So it also has vision. And then we've got, you can paste text and paste and copy text. So if you have something that you need to copy and paste, you can put it in there. You can see the supported file types are PDF, .txt, markdown language, and audio. So you can upload an MP3 into this. And so if you're a Google Workspace user, you've probably got a lot of content in your Google Docs or Google Slides. Uh, if you're not, then keep in mind you cannot upload a Word document into this. So in order for me to make this useful, and since I have a lot of Word documents, I had to save them all as PDF to put them in there. And then you just do the usual where you can go and choose a file to upload, and it opens up your file explorer either way, or upload sources here. One thing, again, you can add links. So if I click on website, one of the nice things about Google Notebooks is it lets me load a lot of URLs at the same time. So I'm going to show you a little workflow that I do. I'm going to open this. I'm in Google Edge. One of the things I like about Edge is if I do a whole lot of research and I've pulled up a whole lot of websites that I want to use, I can add them all as a collection. So you just open up all the links that you want to put into a bibliography or review all the websites and that kind of thing. And as you open them, you can add them to a collection, and then your collections appear over here. So you can see that I've got, basically I've saved a bunch of collections where I've done research on. I was doing an article on agentic AI, so I saved a bunch of these. And because this is Microsoft Edge, it integrates with my Microsoft stuff because I have Microsoft 365. So I'm just going to click over here, and I'm going to send all of these links to Word. So again, my use case here is I've been doing a lot of research, and now I want to put all of these links into a notebook, keeping in mind that I know that I have 40 sources in here. So then I'm going to just Control A, whoops, I'll do a full Control A, and I'm going to select all of these and copy them. Then I'm going to go back over into my Google Notebook, and I'm going to paste all of them. Oh, interestingly, some of them won't work because they are, okay, so it has to be just a straight up URL, and then I'm going to click insert. Now, again, you can upload documents. You can upload MP3s. We'll also want to give this notebook a name. So we're going to call this Agentic AI. You'll notice that it gave it kind of already applied some AI to it because it gave it a name, Legal and Beyond. And then the first thing it does is it notes that there's 24 sources, and it creates a description. And then you can start interacting with your resources. So you can start using prompts to prompt for information in this. But the other things that the Google Notebook LM does, and this, I think it was originally designed as kind of a study guide or a study tool. And so you can do things like create an audio overview. And if you click on the three little buttons, you can click customize and you can say, I want it shorter, default, longer. What should the AI host focus on? And you can say, focus on how law firms are using this. Focus how law firms are using agentic AI. And then if I hit generate, it will actually create a podcast with two speakers who go through and look at all these resources and then give you either a shorter or default or a longer, depending on how many resources, anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes of a podcast covering all of these resources. And again, it doesn't matter whether it's web links or documents that you've uploaded or MP4s or videos, it will synthesize and turn it into a podcast responding to the focus question that you have. This is new, the video overview. And again, you can customize this. What should the AI host focus on? And it creates a video overview. For now, only in English, but it says more languages coming. Other things you can do, create reports, briefing documents, study guides, FAQs, timelines. So thinking about the types of content that you've added, some of these won't be all that relevant. A briefing doc, a study guide would probably be great, FAQ, um, timelines. And then there's the mind map. And again, this particular example is not going to be all that useful for a mind map. So we'll try the same prompt that we did before. How are law firms using agentic AI now? And it's going to look through all these websites and give you a response. While it's thinking, um, there's a couple of other things. When you use anything in Studio, the output will be saved here. You can then add the output to the notebook. So if you want to save the mind map or the reports as part of the collection of resources it's referring to, you can actually add it to your sources. If you want to add anything at any time, you click on the add button. You get that same thing and it shows you your source limit. Again, because I'm using the free product, I have a limit of 50. If you use the paid products, you have a much larger source limit. And you can see that it's given me a response. And then it also shows me specifically the resource that it used and the quote out of it. So this one is showing me that it came from the article Agentic AI is the hot buzzword from above the law, and so on and so forth. So it does create this. Again, I can save this as a note, and my output is here. Then I can add it to the notebook as a source or delete it. So any output I create, either from Studio or from chat, will be saved over here, and I can again put it over with my sources or just have access to it later. The other thing that you can do is click on this button down here to copy the text. We're going to go back to my notebook so I can show you some of the other outputs. So the audio overview does take a minute. Um, and so I think you will be able to hear this. Try to play it. But the other thing to be aware of is that when you run your query, if you have a whole bunch of resources, you can actually select just which ones you want it to use. So it doesn't have to be everything in the collection. You can select which ones to run at a certain time. So if you have a particularly big collection, you can just select certain ones you want it to look at. So here's the audio overview.
Welcome to the deep dive, where we take your sources and, well, we cut through the noise, distilling them into actionable insights and some genuinely surprising facts. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that's crucial for any modern professional, especially those in the legal field: how to effectively assess, implement, and really maximize the return on investment for technology in a law firm. Think of this as your shortcut. Understanding everything from basic tech audits to, well, pretty sophisticated ROI calculations, and even getting a strategic framework for deciding should you renew those costly software subscriptions. We've got a fantastic stack of documents here to guide us. Things like needs assessments, ROI calculators, renewal checklists, a lot of really practical stuff. Our mission today is simple: cut through the jargon, give you a clear, comprehensive understanding of how legal pros, particularly in small offices, can make smarter tech decisions. We'll explore exactly what questions you need to ask, what metrics actually matter, and importantly, how to avoid some common pitfalls.
And what's really fascinating here, looking at these sources, is how they provide both the granular details of a tech audit, the real nitty gritty,
Mm-hmm.
and the strategic frameworks for long-term planning, all while emphasizing those tangible benefits like efficiency.
So you get the idea. It creates a podcast. You can download the podcast, you can share the podcast. So when I put together the event for this program, I actually shared a podcast that I created on generative AI. So it's pretty interesting. Pigeen just asked for non-client related work. If you have a series of workflows like a litigation process in your office, could you turn it into a video instruction manual for a new person? Absolutely. I think that's a great use case for this kind of thing. Again, you can do the audio overview, which is basically a little mini podcast. And then also you've got the video overview. Other things that, in terms of output, you can create is mind maps. So, because this content all has to do with audit and strategy of your technology stack, it is particularly suited to something where it creates a mind map and you just pull your mouse over it and you can move it around. And so if you go, okay, the tech subscription renewal checklist, what's all that about? Evaluation criteria. If I click on this, it turns it into a query. Discuss what these sources say about evaluation criteria. And it actually queries the set of documents. So in addition to getting a mind map, it just basically creates prompts for you. So again, depending on the type of information that you've put into this thing, the mind maps could be useful. And then you can go back to your studio. The other thing is you see here where you can add a note. So you're creating a note. This can be anything you want to write. So you can add to the corpus of data by taking notes. You can take notes while you're reading the response and thinking about what else you need to say. So you can create notes. In this case, we'll say, what is the best way to document a tech stack? A spreadsheet. You can either leave that note for yourself or you can convert it to a source. So part of everything that you can output also can be converted to a source that you would add over here in this notebook. And then to go back to Studio, and you'll see that your note, the note that you added is there. And again, you can add it to a source or you can delete it. So I think that is, and again, you've got your share button. You can share the entire notebook with specific people, restricted to only people with access, and you would put in, so again, for if you're doing this for non-client related work, but want to share it with someone who's new to the firm, you can share it with somebody specifically in the firm. Um, you're the owner. So if you've ever shared anything out of Google products, that the options that you have are the same here. In settings, you've got help, you've got output language, you've got feedback, you've got, of course, upgrade to plus. And this takes you back to your home page. This is when I first started, I added a ton of things. And so this is where it really comes in handy to uncheck all the sources and then just check things that make sense. I've got one for, so that's pretty much it. Then you get to get creative in how you use this thing, but it's pretty cool to hear your notes and your documents read back to you as a podcast or where you can ask questions about what you're doing. It's also useful if you're trying to create new content by synthesizing your existing content. Um, so that's Notebook LM. Again, the free version. If you want more options, more sources, and more security, you can definitely pay for it again through Google Workspace, which is 14 bucks a month, or the pro version of Google Notebook LM, which is 20 bucks a month. So, any questions about that?
Catherine, I have a question.
Sure.
Um, if you know you're going to have a lot of overlap of information, but you know you're going to want different notebooks for different things, how does that like if you know you're going to have almost all the same documents you're going to research, but you want a notebook for, subject A or subject B, can you do that?
Yeah, so you can create as many notebooks as you want, or as long as you're not going to exceed 50, then you can just, and that's what I was doing with when I first started using it until I started creating multiple notebooks. You can just go in, and this AI notebook really has far more than AI. It has emails, do and don'ts, tips, choosing a business laptop. And this was just me creating. And so again, you can just select, as long as the titles of your documents make sense to you, you can say, okay, I really just want to focus on the documents that make sense regarding uh, tips. And I'll select those and I can query and it only looks at those documents. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, and another question, when you were using website links, does it only search the first, like the actual link you go to, or will it drill down farther into more information?
It actually sees your notebook. I mean, it actually sees the text of the documents online. So not just the title of the website, but actually as long as it's publicly available. So again, you're not going to be able to link to Fastcase or Westlaw or your subscription to ALM or whatever, because if there's a password, it is not publicly indexed.
But if you have the website and then inside that website has a link to maybe a chart or more information, can it get to that
It's probably
information?
not going to follow that, so you would want to
Okay,
separate that out.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
It's really just it's like the Google search in that it sees the text on the page, but it's not following links within it. So somebody asked, what are the assurances that the confidential data you put into a paid subscription service does not become part of the global database? Uh, The assurances, the terms of service, and then my suggestion would be, even though the terms of service very specifically say that they're not uploading them to train the LL model, um, I would be incredibly hesitant to put anything that involved trade secrets, client names, or anything that had any level of confidentiality or uh, sensitive information. So again, eh, I guess the question is, have you used any cloud storage, whether that's Google or Microsoft or SharePoint or um, ShareFile or something like that, that is not specifically zero knowledge, uh, and you're trusting the terms of service and you're trusting that. And if you don't trust that, you definitely don't trust this. But according to the terms of service for the paid products and even for the free products, they're not uploading your information into the database that then is the corpus of data for the large language model to hit against. So y'all can keep asking questions, but I'm going to move on to the Copilot notebook. This again is so there's a follow-up. Is there a secure service which a firm can purchase which allows you to use the data as per the large language privacy private services? Yeah, there's plenty of high high dollar services that you can use. I know that one of the ones that has really good security is NetDocuments. And NetDocuments now has AI built into it, and they don't have notebooks, but you can query your own um, information in that, and they're not sharing it. VLEX Fastcase has a AI tool called Vincent that you can use Vincent to do legal research with AI tools and also upload your own documents into that. I'm pretty sure iManage as a document management system has also done that. And so again, we want to look at two levels. One's what the terms of service saying, and is it specifically for law firms? And if that's the case, then those questions have often been asked. That doesn't excuse you from thinking about the repercussions if something got out. And also, reading the terms of service and understanding what it means to your data in your practice. Okay, so moving forward with 365 Copilot Notebook. So Microsoft 365 Copilot is a licensed product that sits on top of Microsoft 365 Business, not the personal version. At least that's not what we're talking about. So when I talk about Copilot, I'm talking about a tool that costs $30 extra per user per month that sits on top of your Microsoft 365 business subscription. So, and I just did this program last week. One of the things I suggest is if you're going to spend that much money, you need to figure out whether you're going to actually get the return on investment out of it. So, one of the things about the Copilot license on top of the 365 business agreement is that you have more advantageous terms of service. And it's very clear that they don't share your information. They don't upload it to the large language model. They don't use it to train the model, that your information is yours and all of that. Again, you still, depending on the level of sensitivity of the information, may want to sanitize things before you upload them and that kind of thing. One of the downsides of Copilot Notebook, which I suspect they'll probably be working on, is so far as I can tell, there is no collaboration. So you can't share the notebook with other people in your team. It's kind of your thing, um, which is unusual for the Microsoft 365 business version, which generally makes it easy to share stuff. But you can output things that you in the notebook as documents and then share them out. So we're going to go over and look at the Copilot notebook. I'm warning you now, it's not as cool as the Google Notebook. And again, it's pretty new. So I am in my Microsoft 365 Copilot. Again, this is a product that I pay for on top of my Microsoft 365 subscription, and it extends generative AI tools and agentic tools to my 365 environment. And so if I go to, if you can go to office.com, or you can go to m365cloud.microsoft. If you go to office.com, it just redirects. So that's the easiest way to find it, and then bookmark it. And you start out with a search, and this searches all the content across the organization. Then I can chat with everything that I have access to in my Microsoft 365 account. So email, documents, spreadsheets, everything else. But that's not what we're really talking about today. Today we're talking about notebooks, which recently appeared here in this little navigation toolbar. So when I click on notebooks, very much like what you saw with the Google product, is you've got a list of your notebooks. Note that there's no shared notebooks from across the globe or anything like that. You've got notebooks, and you can favorite a notebook in case you have a whole lot of them. And then you can create a new notebook up here. So if I click on new notebook, again, this is tied to my Microsoft 365 account. So I can create a notebook name. We'll call this Tips for Lawyers. And then I can add references, and references is content. So if I type in tips, it's searching through my Microsoft 365 account, and I can just add, I can also add just files, I can add people, I can add meetings, I can add emails. If I click here and say upload from device, I can search through my files if I need to add multiple files or look in a particular folder. And if you are using OneDrive, you can open it this way. So you can get it off your hard drive, you can search for it, you can add lots of other things, you can drag and drop. Now you can add PDFs, PowerPoints, spreadsheets, docs. What you can't do, or at least I was unable to, is add MP3 files, so audio files. And then if you click on this, this is kind of a pain. You can't remember in the Google Notebooks, I was able to add a whole lot of links all at once. This, you have to add links one by one. There's no mass import. So this is really focused on your data, and they make it a little bit harder to add links, but you can add links, like if you want to add a link to your website or something like that. So I'm going to go back here and add a few. And then as you're adding things, it shows you all or just the type of file. So let me go through and find. The other thing is, in addition to the usual Microsoft types of products or files, you also can add loop files. You can also add OneNote pages, PDFs, all that kind of stuff. So we'll add this. Then, just like the the Google Notebook, you can ask Copilot, um, so I'm asking it, what are the best tips for lawyers in terms of email management? And it's thinking. And then it will create a response. And sometimes it takes longer than other times, depending on how many sources, because it's actually going through all of those files. It's referencing the files, and then it's giving me the response. And you have to keep scrolling down. It's developing it. So it says, would you like help implementing any of these tools in your current setup? So it gives you more prompts. Show step by step how to set up Outlook templates, create training materials, summarize the best add-ons, and then I can click over here, and if I have any prompts in my prompt gallery, which I do, I don't know why it won't find them there because I have some predetermined prompts, but it's this again, this is a very new tool. If I go up here to the top, I can actually copy this, rather at the bottom. I can copy it. I can edit in Pages. So if I click on this and say edit in Pages, Pages, remember we had the notes in Google Notebook, so Pages is similar to that. Um, it's taken the output, and then I can edit this, and then I can save the page and export it to Word. Shows me my references. Um, so if I need to use the output, edit it, I can do it right within the notebook. Then I can go back over. You can also look at all the chats that you've had. It saves your chats. So now I've chatted with this notebook and it shows me my chat history. Um, Going to other notebooks, I'll show you some of the other things that you can do. Um, it also will give you a little podcast of the content. And what I did was I created the audio and then I actually generated a transcript of it, using Microsoft Word, which you can do. So you've got, again, what you're putting in here and your chat and any summaries. And then some other things I should show you in this. For each of your notebooks, you can add instructions. So if I click on this, tell Copilot how to respond. And so you can kind of pre-format how it responds in this particular notebook. So respond in bullet points, tailor information to Seattle. If I wanted to say, in the response, focus on solo and small firms, or focus on low cost or free tools, or focus on the Microsoft suite versus Google, or whatever it is, whatever you need to give it instructions. And it will, so when you're prompting it, you don't have to write all of that information in your prompt every single time. that you can give it kind of preset instructions for working with this particular notebook. And then he would save that. Also, in this little button, you can open, rename, or delete. You can also ask Copilot, can you output a bulleted list? So I'm asking it to output a bulleted list. So again, if that's how you want your responses, then you can put that in the instructions, or you can just tell it. And so it will create a bulleted list. And then one of the things about all of these products is that they give you a bunch of kind of what's the next step, and it tries to anticipate what you want. So it says, would you like this list formatted into a printable checklist or a slide deck for training purposes? So make this a printable checklist, turn it into a slide deck, add examples for each skill. We're going to say turn this into a training slide deck, and it will output a slide deck for you. And it's thinking about it. But you can export, I mean, you can get it to generate spreadsheets, documents, PowerPoints from the actual output in the chat. Again, you've got, this is looking at your data in the Microsoft 365 suite. You're not pulling it out in from other places. It's all what you've got in there. You can upload documents from elsewhere, but it's really focused on looking at your stuff. You can put hyperlinks. Again, they need to be leading to information that is available to the public. And again, it's not following any links. And obviously, this is not instantaneous. But eventually, it will give us a link. So I want to show you one other thing. Do we have any OneNote users? Okay, a couple of you use OneNote. So again, I just want to show you that Notebooks is now part of OneNote. So if you have the 365 business plan and you pay for Copilot, you will see in your OneNote notes that you also now have your Copilot notebooks. And so you're all the stuff that you've done in the notebook is also available directly in OneNote. And Camille says she'd like to see what OneNote offers in AI in terms of Copilot. Copilot lives in OneNote. So you just click the Copilot button and it gives you some general prompts. If you go and look at let's see, find something that so I don't think that the integration is all that deep in terms of it's not giving me prompts within my notebook, but I haven't really explored it all that much. But again, if you're working with Copilot notebooks and you're a OneNote user, now all of your notebooks show up there. And so now it has created a PowerPoint slide deck from the responses. and it's really bad. Then you get to go through and clean it up with design suggestions, and now it looks much better. Um, so it's not going to be completely finished because we would probably never show a slide deck that had that many words on it. But, you know, that's where the design um, suggestions come in, which I find very handy. So I think for notebooks, oh, and again, so you can add more content, and then there's these things called pages, and pages are just kind of workspace that you can type things in, and then you can also, in this case, it's the output from my query, which I can then share the page link or copy the component or create a Word document or add it to a notebook. So that is not confusing at all. So for the queries where I've created significant content out of the chat, it's turning them into pages, and then we can add them to a notebook. But you can also just go back to the notebook and look at your previous chats. So I don't really know the entirety of what these pages things are about, except that you can kind of convert them to other things. So that is all I've got for this. So I'm going to stop the recording and I'll let y'all ask questions, but I appreciate your time. Next month, I'm going to have Hillary Bowman, who is with Quarius, which is another AI tool. It is not one of those tools that actually transcribes video conferences and calls. It's actually a tool that gives you some suggestions as you're talking to someone about questions you should be asking them, but it doesn't record your call. It's a pretty interesting tool. So that'll be next month. Actually, it'll be September 10th, and I'll get that up soon.